Dr. Jazz. Dr. Jazz.
You know, my pleasure. My pleasure.
I've seen you live so many times also, and you know, listened to your music for such a long time. And being a guitarist, I was like, yeah, want to ask him some questions that you know, read the interviews, but sometimes I didn't see them.
Okay, cool.
You know, so but I just want to ask you first this one thing. You know, I saw this. You did like some solo stuff, like "My One and Only Love." You recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And then you did that Christmas song, Christmas Time Is Here, and it sounds amazing. You playing solo guitar, and I mean, you did the Billy Joel track, you know, on your solo album. And
Right.
And it's so nice to hear you do that. You know, I think most of us are used to you know, rocking it out like crazy, amazing stuff.
Yeah, it's my little guilty pleasure, you know.
But you sound awesome with that. Like, do you have any plans ever to do something also in that direction?
A lot of people have asked me that. And maybe I will. I don't have plans.
Oh, okay.
You know, but maybe I will, because a lot of people have said they would, you know, be interested in that. But really, to be truthful, and that's really more for me than it is for the idea of you know, making some sort of a big statement. You know, I mean, I just enjoy manipulating harmony. You know, I have fun with it. I do it, you know, in a subtle way when I'm playing anyway. Like people probably aren't aware that much of the just the extent of harmonic devices that I use when I'm just soloing on a blues. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And or on one chord or something like that. You know. Yeah. So, but it's an opportunity to really explore some things, and for me to grow. It's a really kind of a cathartic experience for me to do any kind of solo guitar thing. It's also terrifying, by the way.
It is. I know. You know, I've spoken to so many guitarists, and you know, it's quite funny. If you know, did you ever do solo guitar gigs? Like,
I did a couple. Yeah, I when I lived in New York, I used to go. I used to go to the Village and play at like these, you know, little restaurants and stuff. You know, when I was like, you know, when I was just out of college, just trying to make a living. It wasn't even about, you know, it wasn't, you know, really, quite frankly, it was not about, you know, getting my solo chops together. It was about, there's a gig.
Yeah, sure.
So I said, oh, you know, I don't know how to play solo guitar, but I'll go do it anyway, you know. And
interesting.
And over the years, I got better at it, you know. But I didn't, you know, I never spent much time with it, you know. But except for that, like I said, I have the, you know, when the spirit hits me, I like a particular song or a particular something, you know, I've committed sort of to doing like every year, doing like a little Christmas song. So I've done about 6 or 7 of them, you know what I mean?
Oh no, this is going then into dangerous territory, you know, like a Christmas album. It's like
yeah. I mean, but it really wouldn't be, because as you know, I mean, these little solo pieces are they're short. Yeah, it's not like I'm playing a whole 5
No, I'm kidding.
They're just a couple minutes and see it, you know.
Yeah, no, but playing solo is terrifying in a sense, because you know, I've spoken to so many amazing guitarists, and like, you're alone, you're vulnerable there, even playing any instrument, as a matter of fact.
Any instrument, yeah.
You know. But especially guitar, I think. And I wanted to ask you, like, when I listen to you doing this solo stuff, you know, you play all the intervals and amazing, beautiful chords, and counterlines and counterpoint. And did you listen like when you were younger and like to all those also like traditional jazz guitarists, like I don't know, like Virtuoso by Joe Pass, it's for me still like one of the best albums ever.
I did, but I didn't really study it. Okay. I studied probably, especially Joe. I mean, obviously everybody listens to Joe, because he's kind of like the alpha and omega, of sort of the classic jazz guitar, solo guitar, but I mean, of course, there's other people that are, from that era. Matter of fact, almost all those guys, Johnny Smith.
Man, that's like the most underrated guitarist ever. I think.
Well, no, Tal Farlow too.
Tal Farlow,
I mean, it's people don't really think about those guys, as much as they should. I don't hear those guys mentioned in the conversation that often. And Tal Farlow, I mean, if you just look at the harmonics thing alone, that, he was he was an innovator,
Genius,
but then his chops, man, he played stuff like unbelievably up tempo. But I'm gonna say though that the person that I most sort of kind of dug into is in terms of solo guitar and voicings and stuff was Wes.
Oh yeah.
And so because I really had no intention of ever playing solo guitar, I just liked, because Wes wasn't necessarily playing solo guitar either. He was always playing. Wes sounded like a piano player with a band. With a trio. You know what I mean? Even though there was a piano player there. But when I do these things, I really listen more to get inspiration. I really listen more to orchestral arrangements and piano players.
Yeah, it's funny. Like many guitar players, the usual question would be like, so who you listen to? Many guys answer like they listen basically to saxophone players for the soloing part as well.
Oh, for lines, sax and trumpet, and piano.
Did you do that as well? Like
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like who were like your saxophone? I mean, like probably Coltrane or everyone.
Definitely Coltrane. Like that, Coltrane in a big way. You know what I mean? That's I mean that's that's Bergonzi, Coltrane.
Oh Jared Bergonzi.
Of course, Michael Brecker. I couldn't avoid him because he was standing right next to me. And besides that, I mean, it was. You get a lot from being in the same room with a guy and actually having him react to you or you react to him, that it lets you know about, so that's what he does if I do this. That kind of thing.
You mentioned Michael Brecker now. I mean, I wanted to ask you this about later, but since you mentioned him, for me, I think he's
Johnny Griffin, by the way.
Johnny Griffin. Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, because of the West connection.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's like, oh man, there's I mean, there's a number of saxophonists that.
Did you transcribe those guys for the lines, or did you Yeah. Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I would I've transcribed everything on if it was a Wes Montgomery record, I just transcribed it. I just started at the beginning of the tune and just transcribed everything.
Oh, that's
because I mean you got Wynton Kelly, play, so it's like who swings more than that,
Oh, Wynton was amazing player,
And that's the thing, and I really don't consider myself a jazz guitar player in the traditional sense, but I'm aware of the fact that everything you play has to feel good, or at least for me it does.
Yeah, definitely.
For me it does.
When I listen to
matter of fact, when I hear people play and they don't, I hear the incredible lines and stuff like that, I can appreciate it on an intellectual level.
Yeah.
But it doesn't move me unless it swings. you know, and when I mean swings, that's a broad stroke, you know.
Definitely, yeah.
I just discovered Pantera recently, believe it or not. I'm really late to the game.
Wow.
But, yeah.
I love this. You know, I'm Broken, 7/4 riff, that one.
Yeah. I you know, I was aware of them, but I didn't really listen to them that much. And so somewhere somebody mentioned how much they groove. Yeah. And I was like, let me check this out. And I was like, oh shit, they really groove a lot more than anybody else in that genre. So I was like, you know.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Again, so that was the magnetic force that pulled me in and went, oh man, these guys are for real. You know?
Yeah. Doesn't matter the genre of the music, but it makes sense what you were saying, actually. Yeah. But speaking of, like, you know, these influences, like, you know, this is the jazz part, but then you must have done like the homework in the funk department as well, right?
Absolutely. That was the you know, I'll tell you who.
Leo Nocentelli and all these guys, like the Meters.
Of course. Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Of course. I mean, that, you know, I think a very underappreciated guitarist is Bruce Conti.
Bruce Conti, I don't know him.
Tower of Power.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
See, it's like people just think Tower of Power.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, if you listen to it, he's playing all this funk rhythm guitar on a Les Paul.
Have to check him out. Yeah.
You know, and I mean the Tower of Power. And not only that, his soloing is so rhythmic and melodic that it's just really overlooked. And his tone, is round and warm, but not distorted. You know what I mean? And he's got this sustain that I don't really understand how he's getting it. You know, because he's not using a bunch of pedals or anything. You know, but Bruce Conti, I think, you know, I tell anybody that you know that he's one of the main people that I was influenced by. Now there's some other guys, man, that like
are Al McKay, probably, right?
Household names.
Yeah.
Well, he's a household name.
Yeah.
You know,
okay.
Al McKay, for sure. But no, I'm going to mention a guitarist from Boston named Jeff Lockhart.
Okay.
Do you know him?
No.
He plays left-handed upside down, sort of like Eric Gales, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
And Jeff, back in, you know, we were you know, contemporaries in Boston, and he was the funkiest guitar player I had ever heard. You know, up until that point, and still is one of the funkiest guitar players I've ever heard. A lot of people playing this thing that they call funk now, but it's actually just it's not greasy.
You
know what I mean? It's good. It's really good.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's really good. It's really good, but it's not greasy. You know what I mean? And I think you know,
it has to be dirty. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think people are a little bit too enamored of like these, you know, 30-second note little flurries and things, you know, you know, that kind of thing, and these kind of things. It's like if you did that in James Brown's band, you'd get fired.
Yeah,
because you're breaking the groove up.
Yeah,
definitely. You know, and so no, there's Jubu Smith. That's another really great. Do you know him?
No.
It's another phenomenal guitarist that, you know, and of course I just mentioned Eric Gales.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Talk about guys that are, you know, really, really groove.
Yeah.
You know, that really groove. You know, of course, Nile Rodgers and
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
but those are, everybody knows about that. You know?
Yeah. Sure. And so many underrated musicians out there. It's incredible.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But you did all this stuff like while you were at Berkeley, like doing like jazz and funk studying at the same time?
Kind of. Well, I mean, Berkeley was weird because at Berkeley it was like it was like a science project. Everything was like a science project. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like all the bands, nobody played in 4/4. Everything had to be,
Okay.
you know, completely. Matter of fact, when I left Boston, I joined a blues band because I moved back down to New York, and I joined a blues band so that I could just try to remember
The basics.
how to play something that like had a groove, you know what I mean, and also that had an elasticity that I, you know, was and it just sort of that was more organic, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, having said that, you know, I was very fortunate to play with this group called Tigers Baku when I was in
Tiger Okoshis. Yeah.
yeah, and you know, the lineage of that band as far as guitar players was the first guitarist was Bill Frisell, and then Mike Stern, and then myself.
Yeah.
You know, and then subsequently, I think who else did it? There was a guitarist named Leo Quintero from Venezuela, and Bruce. Shoot, I'm
yeah. Also
anyway, but so there was some really good music going on in Boston. Really good, but I just felt like I was starting to lose touch with what made me want to be a guitar player in the first place. Which was
what was that? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just like this sort of outpouring of emotion. As you know, you've seen me play. You know, you know,
definitely.
So that I just like being a conduit for how I feel. You know, and sometimes when you have, you know, when you got to remember that it's 17/8 and the you know, you're still capable of doing it. You know, you're still capable of doing it, but it takes effort and to sort of get to a place where that becomes organic. Whereas I just wanted like to remember what it felt like for it to be easy to get there.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, but speaking like, let's say 17/8, right, or the odd meters. I mean, I know you did stuff then with Steve Smith and Vital Information, and Steve, you know, he's a master of odd meters as well. But like, how do you get comfortable over, let's say, in case a 17/8?
I mean, first place is to forget the number.
Okay.
That's the first thing you have to do.
Keep the groove in a way, or
forget the number and just feel it like a phrase. You know, a lot of times if somebody starts playing something, I can already play to it. Of course, you know, I know a lot about rhythm, you know, but a lot of times when somebody plays something, like if I hear a groove, I could immediately play it, you know, before I could tell you what the time signature was.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying?
Listen. Yeah, you're listening.
Yeah, because I don't care about the number. I just want to know when it starts over.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, makes sense. Complete sense. Yeah, no.
Yeah, so I think that's the mistake a lot of people make is that you know, you still have to learn to feel it. Like, talk about playing a ballad, for instance, and, you know, which has nothing to do necessarily with odd time signatures. It could, you know.
Yeah.
But the big mistake a lot of people make when they play a ballad is they subdivide. And so you can feel that. You can feel this superimposed faster tempo.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to feel the, you know, the space. And so, like, you know, I play a lot with Dennis Chambers, right?
Yeah.
And when he solos, he doesn't think in terms of, you know, subdividing the you know, into groups of 5 and then making accenting 4 beats in groups of 5, or he doesn't think of those types of sort of this kind of science project math way. That not that he can't, but that's not what he chooses to do. What he chooses to do is say, I'm have a distance that's from here to here, and I can do whatever I want in that space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so that is very liberating. It's also very challenging if you're the one that's supposed to be playing the ostinato behind it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do the same thing. So, you know, I'm not as good at it as he is. He's like the master of that, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think a lot, you know, that's, you know, with all the guys I play with, like Marvin Smith,
Yeah.
or Dave Weckl or whoever, they all have this ability to feel the space.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that allows them the freedom to not have to do the sort of conventional mathematics.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I know what you mean. Yeah, many of the new modern music, which is like, you know, a lot of odd meters, it sounds very, you know, like you said, mathematic. Like, the feel is missing.
Some of it's cool. I mean, you know, the stuff like Meshuggah and stuff. It's amazing. I don't know how those guys play that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Meshuggah is really crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, because of the technique that's required to play that stuff is amazing. You know, I still can't get past I don't get the vocals. I don't understand it. But you know what I mean. But I get, you know, the intensity of it.
Yeah. Musically, it's quite amazing. Yeah.
It's quite amazing, but it's one-dimensional emotionally.
Yeah.
And that part for me makes it less interesting than it would be if it had more, you know,
feeling in a way.
More layers, you know.
Layers, yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'm sure that there's layers in there. I'm just maybe haven't listened to it enough, you know, to.
No, it makes sense. It's like, I think all of their albums they're kind of in the same vein there, you know, it's
right. I mean,
what they do. So.
Yeah. And you know, from a purely academic standpoint, when I listen to them, I'm sitting there going, geez, you know what I mean? Wow. How, you know, I can't even hardly figure out what the time signatures are and stuff because it's so fast.
Yeah. That's the problem. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And, so, I mean, it's, but I mean, you know, when you listen to it after a minute, you can say, oh yeah, now I see what's going on.
Yeah.
But it's still, just because I know what's going on doesn't mean I could ever play it.
No, it's a different style.
It requires a different kind of chops. I mean, and I know a lot of jazz drummers talk about drummers in that genre, you know, that are playing that sort of, you know, super technical prog, you know, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And they said, man, I don't know how these guys play a whole song at that tempo.
Yeah.
You know, with all of that going on, and with the double bass drum going, like, you know, you know, I mean,
it's insane. Like,
it's insane, you know. So it's much respect, you know, to those guys.
Oh, it's crazy. I saw many of these bands, and they are all on click also, you know. So that's even for me more insane, to be honest, you know.
Right. It is more insane, but it sounds like it's on a click. Yeah. You know.
It needs a click also, otherwise, it's
probably, I would think so. Yeah. I mean, you know, I think that's a little bit of the problem with my problem with some of the music today is that it doesn't really breathe.
Yeah.
Because it's all because everybody's used to playing on a click. People are good at it now, though. That's the other good thing. There's an upside and a downside. So when the click is off, they're still good at grooving.
Yeah.
Because they've been playing on a click so much that they have a good, you know, I mean, I know we have these discussions about you know, there's the famous arguments about to click or not to click,
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
and those, it's inane to me to think that a click would be detrimental to your growth in terms of technique, in terms of being able to play evenly. You need to be able to do that first before you start playing loose.
Sure.
You need to be able to play in time before you sort of try to play behind the beat or whatever. Of course, I say that in one breath, and then you listen to B.B. King, and he never played to a click, and it's
60s or whoever.
His time is perfect. You know what I mean? His time is incredible. So his phrasing, his lines never sound stiff.
As if he's talking. That's B.B. King is another story. But I wanted to ask you, Dean, like you mentioned, okay, like from an academic point of view, like that music would be interesting, like, but let's return, like when you finished Berkeley and you went to New York, how was it for you? Like, we're talking about late 70s or early 80s, I guess.
Late 70s, yeah.
70s. How was it for you then, going to New York and trying to establish yourself in the scene? I mean, how did that story begin?
Well, I moved, like I said, I moved out of Boston because I knew I needed to get to New York.
Yeah.
That was because I knew that New York was the epicenter of the kinds of music that I was interested in playing. And I moved in to an apartment with some guys that I knew from Boston, a bass player named Tim Landers.
Oh, okay. We played with him. Yeah.
And a drummer that actually was from New York, but he was playing with Baku. His name was Robbie Gonzalez, and he was the drummer with Al Di Meola in Al's like real heyday.
Okay.
Period. This late 70s.
Where, he played on Tiger's Baku, right? Album for JVC, actually. I think he did in '81, like Gonzalez.
Yeah, I mean, I was it '81? I guess. I think Robbie might have played maybe on something, but I think just percussion.
Okay.
Because I think it was the original drummer in Tiger's Baku was Tommy Campbell.
Okay.
And then there was a couple of other drummers. But on that record that you're talking about, I think that was a record called Mud Cake, and that record was Vinnie Colaiuta.
Sure.
That, but Tim Landers played on that record too, as well as Baron Brown, who was who plays with Steve Smith. Right. And the other guy that was living with us in New York, to circle back to your question, was a saxophonist who passed away a few years ago. His name is Dave Wilczewski, and he was in the original Vital Information with Steve Smith. So that original band was Tim Landers, myself, Mike Stern, and Dave Wilczewski, and then we did another record with no keyboards. What I really liked about that band was that it had no keyboards.
It frees you up, right?
Yeah, well, it just sounded different.
In a way, yeah.
It just sounded different because now you got a guitar player comping for you.
Yeah.
Or you're comping for a guitar player, and it just, to me, it was really fresh. You know what I mean? It was really something unusual, especially in this sort of jazz rock fusion. Anyway, so I moved in with these guys, and Tim was very helpful in terms of trying to introduce me to people and stuff, and and I would hang out at the clubs. Excuse me, like
I know.
7th Avenue South.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
And McKell's, there was these clubs that were not the sort of bigger clubs like the Blue Note and stuff like that. Although the Blue Note had just opened.
Ah, wow.
A lot of people, I know it's funny. People think of the Blue Note. Excuse me. People think of the Blue Note as like being this really old jazz club.
Yeah.
But I think it was in the late 70s.
Yeah. Funny.
So anyway, I'm there, and Tim was, taking me around to these places, showing me, and Tim was also playing with Billy Cobham.
Yeah. Ah, that's how you got the Billy gig. Ah, shit. Okay.
Exactly.
Wow. So how was that for you? Like,
well, sorry. So, well, when I was in Boston, Billy had come there with his band, and John McLaughlin with his band, right?
Wow.
And let's even rewind a little further. My last year in high school, first year in college, I was living in DC area. And Mahavishnu Orchestra came to this place called Shady Grove Music Fair, which I played many times with different artists. It's one of those turntable places. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
Theater in the round, kind of thing, and Mahavishnu played there, and it changed my life. He did that to me twice, actually, John McLaughlin. Because the first time was I was still in high school. I was living in Korea, and his first record came out, which was called Intermounting Flame.
Yeah.
Remember this record?
Yeah, sure.
And it at that time, up until that time, I had thought, I'm going to be a rock, funk rock, soul guitar player that sings,
Oh, wow.
And because I was a singer, as much as I was a guitar player, I was a singer when I was like in high school, and
oh, wow.
I was working quite a bit, with a horn band and with with some different groups that played like pop music and stuff like that. So anyway, but I heard this music because now all of a sudden there was this. I didn't know what the hell they were doing. I had no idea. It was like I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that it was something that I needed to be a part of.
Yeah.
And so John ruined my career, the way I look at it. But
did you ever tell him that?
Like, yeah, of course.
Okay.
But then I saw them, and that just reaffirmed for me. It was like, oh man! Not only that, it wasn't about so much, John's music, which I thought, by the way, I think John's one of the greatest composers of all time.
Definitely.
But it was about Billy, about this way of drumming, and I said, I got to play with this guy, like somehow, And so, funny enough, when he did that thing, I got to go. It was at Berkeley, and I got to go backstage, and I gave him my demonstration tape. You know what I mean? Because and I'm sure he just because he, I remember people giving cassettes to Billy, and he would just give them to me to listen to. You know what I mean? Because he would never listen to them. He would just, so I'm sure that's what happened with mine. You know what I mean? When I gave it to him. But anyway, now fast forward to Boston and to New York, and I'm living in this apartment with all these musicians, and I guess Stern was leaving the band to play with Miles.
Miles, yeah.
Right. And so they were looking for a guitar player, and they were auditioning people like Emily Rimler, and,
wow.
a lot of really good guitar players. But Tim threw my name in the hat, because Tim's, like I said, he's always been, he's always liked my playing for whatever reason. I don't know why, but and so I went there and played, and it was funny because the first song, I've told this story a million times. I won't tell you the whole story, but
please, I don't know.
All right. Well, I'll try to do as quick as possible.
No, please, I want all the details, man. I'm like a small child now. So.
Okay. So Tim said, "Hey, Dean, Billy wants to hear you on this day." I said, "Okay." And so I'm waiting around to go to SIR, which is the big studio, which just recently closed. Very sad, for all of us, at rehearsal.
Yeah.
Like the main rehearsal studio in New York. And so I'm getting ready to go. And I get a phone call from Tim. He says, Billy doesn't want to hear anybody else today. So, we'll probably do it tomorrow or the next day. I said, okay, and so I went downstairs and, bought a 6-pack of beer and started watching the Yankees game. Right. Yeah. And I smoked a joint and watched them and drank a couple of beers. I'm cured from all that kind of stuff now, but back then it was, it was kind of part of,
Sure.
And so by the time I get this next phone call, which was, Dean, get down here right away because Billy wants to hear you. I'm 3/4 away through a 6-pack of beer and a couple of joints and watching a Yankees game. And so I go down there and I'm thinking this is going to be the shortest audition ever, and he puts up a tune called Solarization, which is in 27/8. And it's like I needed like 5 music stands, to put the goddamn thing on the music stand, and I started laughing because I said, I'm never going to get through this, and they started playing it. And remember what we were talking about at the very beginning about feeling, I realized that it was 27, but it was really divided in a way that was pretty easy to hear, and the melody was basically these sort of whole notes,
floating over kind of,
this kind of thing. And so, I probably screwed it up a little bit, but I got through it barely, And then Billy says the fateful words. He goes, "Let's play a shuffle."
Oh, okay.
So now, like I said, I'm like 4 beers and a couple joints in, and now you're going to ask me to play a blues shuffle. I'm in the perfect state of mind for that, for that. Oh, cool. And I played how I play, and so fortunately Billy heard something in there that sounded compelling to him. And I think at the beginning he kind of looked at me as a work in progress, and because initially I wasn't, quite frankly, I wasn't cutting the gig. Initially, I wasn't. It was the technique required, and the intensity required to play with Billy on the music that he was playing at that point in time was beyond me. And he, taught me some hard lessons, about learning how to breathe and especially specifically not holding your breath.
Did you talk a lot about music, or?
No, not really. But it was more of a, he would say, listen, you've got to figure out a way to relax when you play, because if you don't, you're going to lose this gig.
Wow.
And so it was, because he wasn't interested necessarily in sort of nurturing someone through, he needed somebody to be able to play his music, and so he kind of threw down a challenge, not in so many words, but it was like, here it is, sink or swim. And I'm just going to tell you that what you need to do is you need to learn how to control your breathing. And that is going to, and if you can't do that, you're going to wind up constantly running out of gas.
Yeah.
Like what's been happening to you,
Yeah.
And so it worked. And so because of it, I was capable of still being this very physical, demonstrative kind of player, visually. Not that I give a shit about this. I don't about how I look when I play. I think that's pretty obvious. But what it did was it allowed me to be able to do all of that without running out of gas.
Yeah.
So it was a really cool thing.
Yeah, it's
besides
amazing.
The fact that the music was great.
Now I watched today. I think it's from Montreux Jazz Festival. You guys did a gig in '82 with Billy and Gil Goldstein and Tim Landers.
That was a live record. It was a live record.
I didn't know that. That it's. I mean, I have some records, but I didn't know about that one.
That's a record called. Oh man, it's a great live record. It's called "Smokin'."
Oh, okay, check it out.
So I mean, electro musician. It's the second record I made with Billy. It's
killing, like the version of Red Baron you guys play there, and it's just like
great,
your solo ends, and it's just like the drums, like you're building it up, and he doesn't hit the drum like kaboom, it ends. It's just like kind of it's.
I know.
Wow,
he's so great. His
incredible.
His sense of controlling the music is so amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that record is cool. That the first record that I made with Billy was my actual
Observations, right? Or
Observation.
No.
Yeah, that's the first record I played on.
How was that like for you? Like to go into the studio?
It's a funny thing, man, because we did the record and most of the things were like first takes, second takes,
Oh, wow.
And so I'm thinking, because we knew the music, we had already been playing. We had already did we had toured the States and Europe. We did a Europe tour for like 3 months.
I wanted to ask you, how was that like for you? I mean, I know you grew up in Europe also, right? Until you were...
No, I didn't. Not really. I was born there.
Born? Ah, okay.
I was born in France. So not to say that I didn't grow up there, because I lived there when I was born, obviously, and then we went back.
Ah, okay.
And I lived there for another couple of years when I was 10, or 9, 10 years old.
No, but I wanted to ask you, how was that like for you to go like on a 3-month European tour? You're like in your 20s, like, and suddenly you're like with Billy Cobham on a European tour. How was that for you? I mean.
Well, like for me, I mean, you got to understand, I'm an Army brat. So I lived in, I went to 10 different 10 different schools from grade school to high school. you know. So I was used to
almost
being in
touring
different
plus natural, almost like
places, and you know, yeah. Plus, man, when you're on the road like that, there's not a hell of a lot of time to
yeah.
think about anything. It's like, and this tour that we did was a train tour.
Oh wow!
So we had Eurail passes, and we were like going, you know, from place to place, and
Amazing.
it was comical, you know, the like when you have to change trains with all that gear and all the suitcases and instruments and everything. It was insane, man. It was like some kind of you know, musical SWAT team, you know what I mean?
And crossing borders and all that.
Yeah, crossing
Yeah.
borders. Oh man, we went through the corridor, and they didn't treat Billy very well. And,
Oh shit! Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
you know, it was really funked up. You know what they, you know how they, you know, when the passport control would come through the train, and so,
Yeah.
and they were just very gruff and nasty.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It was like, you know, it was a different world then.
Yeah,
you know?
back then. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
No, but about the first record, like, how did you feel like after you finished that one?
Well, this is the thing, is that the first record, you know, like I said, we just played, you know, because we knew the songs and stuff.
Yeah,
And Billy was very generous, actually. You know, he recorded one of my songs, and he recorded one or two of Gil's songs on that record, and one of Tim's songs. So it was like that band was Billy wasn't the only writer.
Yeah, that's quite good, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and even in the on that live record, Billy still was very generous in terms of he wanted to not only play his material, he wanted to play other material so that he could put his influence on it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it you know, it made him play different. It made, you know, obviously it makes you play different every time you play with somebody different, right? Or
Yeah.
play somebody's music, you know. So, you know, and he had a few really good writers there with him.
Definitely.
You know, like Gil Goldstein.
Yeah, he's
fantastic.
A monster. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we finished the record, and I'm thinking, wow, this recording shit is easy. Because it sounded great, you know, and that was a good record, you know. I mean, I can still listen to that and not you know, cringe, you know what I mean? But then the second record I made was Mud Cake, which was that Tiger Okoshi record.
Tiger, yeah.
And that record was hard.
Because of the music, or
like 20? No, it was just, you know, you know how it is in the studio. Sometimes it goes fast, sometimes it doesn't. You know, sometimes there's weird things that are happening that you know, that could be technical stuff or whatever that makes it, you know. But I was having trouble with my guitar intonation and stuff like that, and it just took you know, a lot of takes. You know, not just for me, but you know, band would play like, you know, 10 takes of songs and stuff, you know, which is a lot for a sort of fusion.
That kills the improv immediately, right? I mean,
well, I think so, but I mean, you know, but then I heard later on, like, you know, a friend of mine, Osnoy, he talks about recording, and he always says that he likes to record a lot of takes because he thinks he thinks his playing gets better so everybody's different, you know.
What's your view on that?
I don't have a steadfast view on it, and like saying, well, this is better and this is worse. But my experience is that the first or second take is usually the best.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree. Yeah.
And it might be lumpier, than one of the other takes, but it's got more honesty.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely.
And I can kind of hear that, you know. And I don't nitpick that much, you know what I mean, when it comes to you know,
recording for.
yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, I want it to be good, of course, you know, but I also don't want it to become sterile.
Yeah, that's
You
dangerous.
know,
Yeah.
so I kind of mitigate that, and I'm one of these people that doesn't really believe in the concept of you know, having a good night and having a bad night. I don't really subscribe to that because
Yeah.
to me, it's like it's what you know. That's whatever you played that night is a document of your life that day.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
know, and so you know, it's just it's different. Like I don't dwell on it. I don't dwell on it if my band played really great, you know, or if I didn't. I don't even think about that whether it was great or not. It's always great. You know what I mean? Even when
Yeah.
it might not be great, it's still great, you know,
Yeah.
to me, because it's at the end of the day, I mean, we're just, you know, I always tell people that that the reason I play music now is the same reason that I always played it, is because I like just hearing noise come out of the amp. I just like that. I just like the fact that it's me that makes the noise come
Yeah.
out of the amp. You
That's so
know,
cool, man.
that's very uplifting for me.
Yeah.
It's you know, that I'm able to have this conduit
Yeah.
to
That's
let
cool.
people know how I feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Or to even let myself know how I feel. You know,
Yeah.
like to be, you know, to be honest with myself. You know,
Yeah.
so that's so.
But do you guys ever talk about music? Like after gigs, you mentioned like good nights and bad nights. Like, you know, there are some musicians who basically never talk about a gig, or, you know, and there are many musicians who like then analyze what was
Yeah,
happening.
like I said, that there's some guys do, some guys don't.
Okay.
You know, some guys do, some guys don't. But mostly we don't.
Okay. Cool.
Mostly we don't. Mostly don't. I mean, you know, you know, I played with Marcus Miller for many years, right?
Sure.
And you know, he never would say you sounded great tonight.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Never would say anything about like that. You know what I mean? It was kind of a different. Well, that's what I mean. In other words, it's like, in a way, it's this is our job. In a way.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like you have the option to sound bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
not like
Yeah.
because you're a professional musician, you know. So
Like
the
a
option
baker
is,
has to bake good bread. Like,
yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
it's not like there's an option there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To sound bad. So why, you know?
Yeah.
So why do I need to tell you anything? You know, anything
Yeah.
about if I tell you if if that needs to be spoken about,
Yeah.
right? Then that means a change needs to be made, not you know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure.
It's not, because the other side of it is, like I said, is just sort of think of it like this: like if you go to you know, you go to a church, or you go to a synagogue, or you go to a mosque, or a shrine or somewhere, and you go to meditate or pray or whatever, and you come out, right? Do you come out and you go, man, I had a really good, you know, prayer today? You know what I mean? I guess sometimes people feel that way to a certain degree, or they feel uplifted, but they feel like I did it really
Yeah.
good today.
You don't
Like
say
I
it.
did it.
Yeah.
I prayed really good today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not, you know, that's
Yeah.
not how it works, you know, really. Now they might feel uplifted.
Yeah.
You know, after a gig, somebody said, "Hey man, how you doing?" I'm like, "I feel great."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily directly in relationship. I don't feel great because I played great. I just feel great because I had the opportunity to play.
Yeah, sure. It's
You
a
know?
privilege in a way also. I mean, definitely.
It really is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is.
But I wanted to ask you this. You mentioned Marcus Miller now and Billy Cobham, who are amazing, you know, band leaders. I wanted to ask you,
Right.
how do you see yourself as a band leader? And how do you lead your bands? I mean, what did you pick up from all these guys? I mean, you became a band leader relatively late in a way, right? Like, what was the trigger when you decided also?
That's actually not true. You know what I
Ah,
mean?
okay. I
Because
mean, the first record. That's what I mean.
First
The first
record is
record.
late.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
It took me 25 years to get a
Yeah, just that's what I
record.
mean. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so. But I had bands.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
the
No,
whole
no,
time.
sorry. Yeah.
I mean, you know, that were gigging. You know what I mean? That were playing regularly. You know, but yeah, I mean, you know, in the mid '80s, in that time period, you know, things were gravitating towards a music that I was not interested in being a part of, and not as I didn't want to put myself out there as you know, a contemporary jazz artist.
Yeah.
You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, or if you want to call it smooth jazz. You
Yeah.
know?
I know exactly what you mean.
I didn't want to do that because I didn't want people to get the wrong impression. It's not that I have anything against that music, and I've certainly played on a number of those records, you know, with some really good artists that embraced that, you know, sort of bubble, you know.
Genre,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that but so for whatever reason, I mean, you know, there was so many times, man, where somebody would say to me, like some A&R guy from a record
Yeah.
company would go, "Man, we love you, man. We love, you know, we love your playing, you know, and stuff, and we'd like to work with you. So what?" And then they would say this. They would say, "But what we need is," and I'm like, "Wait, you know."
Yeah.
It's like, I mean no disrespect, but what makes you think that I care about what you need?
Yeah.
You know, I want somebody that believes in what I'm doing, you
Yeah.
know, and believes in me enough to think that that I have something that's to offer that an audience might want,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And you have to have faith in me for that. And if you don't, then I can't begin a relationship like that where it's where I'm
What you need.
required to you know, do some little funky songs and you know what I mean? It's like, you know, I could write 10 of them in I could make a record and have it out tomorrow.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
Sure.
and it might be a decent record, but it's just not what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Definitely.
but having said that, you know, it's kind of a way of shooting yourself in the foot because you're, you know, another school of thought would say, get in the door, you know, and then once people know you, then you can, you know, sort of broaden their perspective of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, but you like being a band leader? Like,
oh yeah, Yeah, prefer much more than
like a collaborator or sideman or however we want to.
Yeah, I don't. Well, collaborating is good, but generally, I just like it my way. You know what I mean? I really do. I don't. It's. I think you asked me what kind of band leader I am, and in general, I'm aware of the people I play with, so that I'm going to write stuff that enables them to
be who they are,
to be who they are and to do their thing. Having said that, I have enough respect for musicians, having been on the other side, that I sometimes people play stuff that I don't want to say I don't like, but it's in a direction that it's not what I had thought, and I tend not to force them to change it, because being a band leader is weird for me, because I'm caught in this thing of having supreme respect for the people I play with, and then but also knowing that it's like, yeah, but this is, if you would just listen to me, you know what I mean, we could get to something really special. That's because I'm very I want people to trust me. That I'm not going to make them do something that would not allow them to be themselves, but that would still enable me to have the sort of vision I want. That in a way, I think that's why a lot of guys like to work with young guys.
Because like I said, then you can shape them, like Billy thought you said, you would, like, in a way, or
right. I don't have to. Well, it's not so much shape them; it's more just say, it's not really. It's a level of respect where you say, look, dude, just do it this way. Just play it like this. I really don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Just play it. And then eventually, obviously, then they start to develop their own voice and everything, and then you kick them out of the band and get somebody else. No, I'm kidding. But
well, it happened many times. Basically, you check the jazz history, you're like, yep, almost like that, man.
It's like that, yeah.
It's
like
basically almost.
Once a person becomes an artist, they become an self-sufficient as a storyteller. Then you got to go. Okay, dude, you got to go.
You check out Miles' bands. That's the perfect example for me. You know?
And so it's like so there is that element. Having said that, on the other side, see, everything is not black and white.
No, of course, shades of gray.
So on the other side, man, there's another thing that we miss in jazz a lot, and that is this natural empathy and simpatico that happens when you play together a lot. When you like, look at Pat Metheny band. I'm talking about the Pat Metheny group
with Lyle Mason.
Exactly. In other words, so those, for a long time it was the same guys.
Danny Gottlieb and Mark Egan.
Right. And they really developed communication. I mean, even Coltrane's quartet. Which didn't last that long, but still it lasted relative to a lot of other things. That was his band. When you think of the quartet, there's no other names that go in there. There's only those four guys. That's it. There's no other names that go in there. So that's
you seem to have that, right? I mean, at least when I listen to you with Dennis and Adrian Farrow, and you know, you seem to have that going.
Yeah, I want to. I want to play with people that I'm not only comfortable with, but that I know intimately as players,
Yeah.
so that so that and that know me intimately as a player, so that so we don't have to have this sort of feeling out thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Which is, but on the other side of it, as like, because it's not black and white, it's fantastic to do different projects.
Yeah.
You know, in order to have this unexpected.
Yeah. I loved it.
Input, you know, and influence on each person, you know, and so that has a magic too. That's
definitely.
It's also really great, you know. So so there's no real right way or wrong way or what's the best way. I think that, you know, for me, it's I have my main projects that I like to do, like with, you know, with Dennis or with Smitty, like you said, with Hadrien, or a bass player that I played with for years, a bass player named Schuyler Deale, who I played with. He plays on a lot of my records, and he we had a band all those years that I was trying to get signed. You know, we had a band that was great. It was really great, and so many great musicians played in that band. You know, but he was always a bass player. You know. And then there's a keyboard player named Gerry Etkins, who I
you played with for a long time. Yeah.
And so those relationships remain, but then there's these other projects that I want to do that are with different people, so that it'll you know, it'll just hopefully create something fresh.
Yeah, it's like adding new spices in the soup or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, Dean, I just wanted to ask you one last thing, not to take too much of your, I mean, I have so many things to ask you, but not to take too much of your time.
No, it's okay.
I just want to ask you mentioned composing, and that you compose basically, that you think of the players you compose for. Is that actually how you do it, or what's your like compositional routine? Do you write down snippets of ideas, like, you know, or I don't know, like Lucky Number 9, you got this groove going on, and then you wrote it down, and then when you started composing, you took it, or what's your process regarding composition?
Lucky Number 9 is that, you know, see, now again, there's no black and white. Lucky Number 9 started because, you know, Tal Wilkenfeld?
Yeah, sure.
She was working with Jeff Beck, right?
Yeah.
And she, you know, we used to jam together at NAMM shows and stuff like that, and so, you know, little stuff. And then she did a gig with me in LA, and this was during this period that she was working with Jeff.
Yeah.
And but you know, I knew her from what was called the LA Music Academy or something like that. With, you know, I had done a couple of clinics there, and I met her there before she had. You know, she was a guitar player first, and then switched, and then switched to bass. Yeah, that's what I heard. But anyway, but we were friends, and she said Jeff is looking for material, right? And so I sent a couple of grooves, you know, a couple of not groove, like a little melody thing, like a little snippet, like you said, because I immediately thought of Jeff, you know, and the original title of that song was 9 for Jeff.
Oh, how cool!
And then I turned it into Lucky Number 9. But he wasn't making that kind of record at that time. So, you know, because she wasn't really specific on what it was, you know, what kind of material he was looking for or whatever. But I threw these couple things out there. So I had that thing sitting there. So my original, you know, intent of that song was to give it to Jeff Beck, but not really. Not all it was doodle dee doo dee dang, dee dang, dee doo dee dang, dee doo dee. It was just that groove. That's it.
But it's really Jeff Beckish now when I think about it. Like seriously.
yeah.
That's shit. Tony Hymas and Simon Phillips would play that or something like that.
Right. Exactly. See what I mean?
So cool.
So I said, well, you know, screw it. If he doesn't want to do it, I'll do it.
You know? Cool, man.
And so that's where that song came from. But to answer your question, though, I think I just write what comes to mind, and then when it comes to the arranging element of deciding about certain things, that's where I start considering, you know, the players.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's you know. So you come up with an idea, and then you say to yourself, you know, Smitty's going to be playing drums on this, or Dennis is going to be playing drums on this, or whoever. You know what I mean? Or Rocky Bryant, or whoever. All the different guys you know, Juju House. You know.
Yeah.
And so how, you know, and the bass players, you know, and stuff, and then you start kind of crafting a part that will give them freedom, but already sounds like them.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Victor Bailey told me, you know, Victor Bailey did my gig a few times, and I played. I did a couple of tours with Victor.
Yeah, I know. I saw you with Victor the first time. That was
where
in Slovenia. I think it was early to.
Oh wow! Was it now? Was it? Was that with Poogie Bell on drums?
Yeah.
And was it with Jim Beard?
I think it was Jim Beard, Poogie, and what? It wasn't. Was it Kenny Garrett or no?
No. It was.
It was a sax.
Bernie Maupin.
Yeah, exactly. But that's really a long time ago. Yeah.
That was a long time ago. Bernie Maupin. Yeah, you're talking about 2001.
Yeah, it is, right? Yeah.
2001. But anyway, Victor had done my gig a few times, right? And one thing that he said, he goes, man, the cool thing about your bass lines is that they're fun to play. They sound like bass. You know, they sound like something a bass player, you know, wants to play. And so sometimes it's a specific thing, like I'm going to write something for Hadrien to solo on or whatever. But then other times it's really more about just saying, I'm going to write a good bass line. Make sure that I'm going to write some nice harmony that if a keyboard player plays it, they can do what they want, but they're going to get the idea of what I'm going for. And so again, I think you have to be as a composer, you have to be flexible and in order to get the most out of the composition.
Yeah.
You know, so
you like composing?
I do. I'm not prolific. If something hits me, I have a bunch of stuff sitting on, like, you know, I do like whatever. I have my iPhone and that's something in my head. I just sing it into the, you know, and so I have all these little things, you know. Some of them turn into songs. And I was just talking with a friend of mine, an instructor at Musicians Institute, where I also teach there.
Yeah.
And he's Dan Gilbert. He's the most respected guy there, you know. And Dan was asking me. He said, he was talking about because people were asking him when he was going to make his next record, and he goes, "Oh man, you got to go through this, thing where you write some material and then you pick out the best things." And then he goes to me, this was a forum that was happening, right? And he goes, "Hey Dean, what do you think?" And I said, "Man, if I get 10 songs, I make a record."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't make 20 songs and then choose 10 and make a record. Once I get 10 songs, I make a record. If I finish a song, then I like it enough.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
And sure, I mean, every once in a while you're going to make a record that's a concept kind of record.
Yeah.
Like this, my second record was more of a concept record. This record called Groove.
Yeah.
Groove Warrior.
Yeah. Warrior. Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, people get hung up on this. Well, I got to, I'm going to do this concept thing, and I'm like, at the end of the day, it's me playing guitar on all the tunes. So it's going to have a cohesive quality.
Definitely.
Just normally, because of the fact that it's the same guy playing guitar on all the songs.
And writing the music.
So even if I'm writing these things, like, as you can see, like on the record that you mentioned, Rolajafufu.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different kinds of material on there, but it doesn't sound like it to me. I wouldn't even care if it sounded like it was completely different.
It's not. It's you playing, like you said. It's you immediately when you play 3 tones. It's like.
So I mean, you take a song like Lucky Number 9, and that can coexist with
McCoy.
a song like McCoy,
which
it does.
Which is
it's like
completely,
yeah, right.
Yeah,
and so that's what I mean.
Yeah,
I don't, I mean, there's guys like Pat Metheny that he has like footlockers full of music. He's just a compulsive composer. And I have a lot of songs. I have a lot of music, but I'm not as prolific like Pat. He or Tiger, you know what I mean? These guys. But I learned a lot from those guys back in the day about writing in terms of not necessarily the mechanics of writing, but the discipline of composing. And I think this is a big problem with a lot of people that compose, is that they don't compose enough. So then how can you be good at it if you don't, like, if you didn't practice guitar ever, if you never practiced guitar and decided I'm going to be a guitar player, you're not going to be very good.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with composing.
Yeah.
I mean, and so what I what I learned from those guys was that they would just write a song every day, and I used to do that. In my 20s, I wrote a song every day. And they didn't have to be good. They didn't have to. It's not about that. It's just about the. It's just about the exercise. Just about and I would say I'm going to write something in 7 that goes into blah 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 or whatever. Or I'm going to write something that's going to be in 3 different keys, and here's the keys, or just kind of exercises. Just kind of exercises, and I would just write. And so I got better at being able to tell a story.
Yeah, definitely.
Through a composition. A lot of times when I listen to people's compositions, they're not really stories. They're just sort of some nice little groove with some blues lick over it,
or some harmony.
And I like those songs too. I like them too. But don't let's be serious. That's not really composing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just, you know, it's just sort of coming up with something to go on the record, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Cool.
So to circle back, everything I write, if I finish it, I like it.
Yeah.
And so if I like it,
then
when I get 10 of them, I got enough to make a record. Then I make a record.
Are you close to 10 already?
Oh, I'm way past because of this COVID thing.
Oh yeah. So, but there is something brewing, like a new one.
I have a whole record.
Oh wow!
I have an entire record that I just have to, you know, I have to record it. But
Okay.
I have all the music. I have
beautiful.
I have 2 records. I actually have 3 because there's also a live, you know, I have a bunch of live stuff that
that's recorded on the last tours or with the trio.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Last couple of tours, like with you know, with Dennis and Hadrien, and then also with my Europe band and with my band in the States. So I kind of have 3
projects.
You know, 3 bands. I've got the, you know, the trio with Dennis and Hadrien, and then I've got the the band in the States that's with Smitty and Gerry,
Marvin.
Etkins, and a lot of times Ernest Tibbs is the bass player, and Brandon Fields is a saxophonist, and then I have the Europe band, which is with Bernard Maseli on cat mallet, and then Linley Marthe.
Oh yeah, Linley's amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And we've, you know, there's a bunch of material from that that we recorded live that was never recorded any other way. But I, you know, right now I'm just trying to keep the lights on.
Keep the boat floating. Yeah.
So it's you know, so like I say, there's, you know, realistically, I have three things that are you know, that are pretty much because there's a live thing, and then like I say, a bunch of studio material that I, you know, or stuff that I've written recently, you know, that's all I got to do is record it. You know? And then I have this other thing that's a project that's completely ready. It was supposed to be done last year. That was called Summer of Love Evolution. And that project was a thing that was intended for the Berks Jazz Festival, which of course was postponed already twice, you know. And what it is I took the music of the like late 60s and early 70s. I chose some things that I could arrange to create some vehicles for people to play. And so there's like Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Oh wow, beautiful.
And Marvin Gaye stuff, and the Turtles, and you know what I mean, and like all kinds of Fifth Dimension, you know what I mean, all these iconic songs, Santana, you know, from back then, and a lot of different things, you know, that I completely arranged for a group of 11 musicians and singers. You know,
that's amazing.
And it's you know, we just gotta do it.
Yeah,
you know, that's all. Everybody already knows that. Everybody's got the music. They already know, because it was supposed to happen.
Oh shit, yeah.
You know, so you see what I mean. So there's and then of course there's this damn solo guitar record that you want me to make. But
I'll send you emails once a month. You'll be like, oh, it's again this guy from Slovenia.
No. One of these days I'll get to that. But as you can see, I've got
amazing, beautiful.
I like, you know, having orchestrally, I like having more going on than just guitar. Like I'm not really that huge a fan of guitar trio.
Interesting.
Because it's to me it's a it's a limited palette, orchestrally. I mean, certain guys do, or like Alan Holdsworth or something. It's just
okay,
it's unbelievable, or Scott Henderson, for instance. You know what I mean? It's he's or even Osnoy. Osnoy is he's doing it like it would be far less interesting to me to hear Osnoy with no pedals. Because not because he's not interesting, and not because he wouldn't make it really interesting. It's just the idea that it's just guitar, guitar. I'm not that interested in that. I'm not that interested in being a guitar player that much. You know what I mean? I'm more interested in sort of the bigger picture. I just like I like having different sound palettes that are available.
It's like a chef, it sucks if you have only salt and pepper, right? It's nice if you can use coriander and I don't know, cinnamon or whatever. Now,
I mean, it's a little different if Oz was, for instance, playing like a like a blues set or just a straight ahead jazz set, that's different. Then there's a nostalgia to that sounds cool. But I'm talking about when you're doing the modern thing and it's just, these complex chords with the same sound over and over and over. Starts.
I know what you mean. Yeah. If you're going to talk about Mike, I'll record that. I want that. No, I love Mike. I mean, I watched the other day, like one footage from you guys playing in Lugano, '93.
Yeah.
I think, and it's.
Yeah, it's great. There's a bunch of stuff that they just took off.
Seriously.
I guess for copyright stuff or whatever. But man, there's some really that band. I mean, there's not much of the band with Lenny White.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Yeah,
there's not much of it, but that was the when I first started playing with Mike and Randy, it was Lenny, and
wow,
and then it was Rodney Holmes, and then what. We really hit a stride with Rodney, but Lenny, of course, was a different thing because he's so creative, But Rodney, Mike was very comfortable
with Rodney.
Very comfortable, and so to hear Mike play when he's really comfortable. It's almost hard to tell the difference, right? What I mean? Like how would you know whether he's comfortable or not? Because he just always sounds amazing, right?
Yeah.
But to hear him, just completely be relaxed, it was truly awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
So
but,
and
it was how was like that for you when you first got that gig? I mean, I've spoken to Hal Galper, the piano player. Hal Galper.
Hal Galper, sure.
Yeah. And he said he led that band in the '70s with Randy and Michael, and it was like Bob Moses on drums, I think, and a burning band. And he said like when those guys hit it off, it was just like incredible.
Right.
And how was it like for you to play with them?
Well, it's probably one of the greatest musical experiences of my life, really. Because it just everybody in that band was so concerned not only with soloing, but with the bigger picture of you know, making it really sound lush and groovy, you know. And so but then, I mean, Randy and Mike are two of my favorite improvisers of all time, you know. They're very different improvisers, you know. Randy, it sounds like every note that he plays, he doesn't know what the next note's going to be until he does it, and then and it keeps going like that. I mean, it's just, you know, obviously everybody has their quote unquote phrases and licks and stuff, but Randy has this sort of you know, just stream of consciousness that's just it really influenced me really heavily before I ever played with him.
Yeah,
you know, just from listening to him play with Larry Coryell and playing with the Brecker Brothers. And, I mean, especially the fusion stuff. You know, obviously Randy has a whole nother persona as a big band jazz guy too. You know, and just as a jazz trumpet player as well, because he's got, you know, that whole Freddie Hubbard sort of you know thing. But I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about this other sort of free expression thing that he does. But Michael, though, you know, we were friends before we ever played together. I knew him from 7th Avenue South, you know, and so when I first got in the band, it wasn't. Mike was like, he treated me with great respect, like really great, and I have no idea why, because I always felt like I was like an amoeba compared to him, you know. But I think that allowed me to feel confident and comfortable about whatever it is that I was about to play, you know? And I'm not talking about soloing. I'm not talking about soloing at all, you know. But on the soloing side of it, it was very beneficial to me to play with Mike and Randy, because most of the guitar solos followed one of those guys. You know? Not all of them. There was like you know, I think Spherical was the only song that you know, started with a guitar solo.
I think you have like, I think like a 5-minute guitar solo, right? Or no, one song.
Oh, you're talking about Song for Barry.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. There's a couple of versions of that. You know what I mean?
That's killing. That's like.
Right. And but again, for whatever reason, the amount of respect that Mike and Randy showed to me allowed me
to do that,
to feel comfortable, to explore, you know. But like I said, this concept of having to solo after Mike Brecker, you know, was very beneficial to me. Like, I know a lot of people would say, "Oh God, how do you solo at?" You know, but for me, it was like, you know, okay, I can't do that, you know, so I have to take my ego out of the equation and just play what I hear and what I you know, and tell a story. I just have to tell a story. That's all I have to do, you know. And so it enabled me, because of that, to be a better storyteller. Because I'm not focused on this sort of ego problem, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean,
and
that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, one of my questions, like, how do you develop a solo? Because, you know, I watched footage of you with Dave Sanborn or whoever you play with. You basically, your solos, if we're talking about improv, they tell a story in a way always.
I'll tell you the simple answer that I've come up with over the years is a very simple thing, is that I just try to hear the immediate future and then manifest it.
Mm.
You know, so in other words, if I play something, while I'm playing something, I'm hearing what could come after that, or what should come after. You know what?
Yeah.
When I say what should come after, it's because that's if I'm just trying to be natural. You know.
Yeah.
It could be a lick.
Yeah.
But it could be a lick. It doesn't have to be some, you know, earth-shattering first time that ever happened thing. Because in order to tell a story, it has to have a continuity.
Yeah.
And so, like I say, I just try to hear the immediate future and then do it, and then keep doing it until the song's over. Not until the solo's over.
Yeah.
Until the song's over.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the other thing. It's like soloing is
one part.
Too many people look at it like an opportunity as opposed to an obligation. You know, where it's just part of you're now obliged to continue the bigger story of the whole song. You know, so that's the way I approach it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Amazing, man. Thanks so much, Dean. It's so much fun listening to you, man. You've done so much stuff, like so much history created. It's just, Thanks so much for sharing all this stuff. So thanks so much for sharing.
Well, thanks for asking me, man.
Dr. Jazz. Dr. Jazz.